Hi everyone, I'm Alli and welcome to my channel. Today I have 5 rustic farmhouse style DIYs that I'm going to share with you, along with some decor tips for you to decorate with this style. So I'm not going to stand here talking too long because I have lots of DIYs to show, so let's get into this first one. I'm starting with a 12 by 16 inch wood craft sign that I got at Joann's. I got mine on clearance around Halloween time, so it was already painted like this. And I'm also going to be using this pack of canvas panels that I found at Dollar Tree. I don't really remember when, but any 8 by 10 inch canvas panel will work. First, I just used some scrap paper to kind of test how I was going to paint my tree design. I definitely recommend doing this before painting anything that you've never attempted painting before. It's just a good way to practice. Then on my canvas, I used my ruler to place lines where the 4 tree trunks would go. I then painted on the trunks and then painted all of the branches using that technique that I landed on. And I found by varying the amount of paint on the brush while painting will make these trees look so much better. Next, I'm using these mini rubber stamp letters to write out one verse from the song "Oh Christmas Tree." I used my square to help me keep the text as straight as possible, but I didn't really mind it looking a little bit whimsical. And so I just dipped each letter in the green paint that I used for the trees, dabbed off some of the excess, and then stamped the letters onto the canvas. And I started with the bottom line in the center and worked my way out, and then repeated the same for the top line. Then I took some poster board and measured and cut it to the dimensions on the inside of the wood sign frame. I then took a piece of red buffalo check fabric, I got this at Hobby Lobby, and glued it onto the poster board piece. When doing this, I tried to make the pattern as straight as possible. I then glued the piece to the background of the craft sign, and finally, I hot glued the canvas panel with the tree painting to the center of the sign. Today's video is part of the DIY Mommies DIY and Decor challenge for the month of November. This month's theme is, of course, Christmas, so I'll make sure that I link Christina's channel in the description along with the playlist where you can check out all of the other creators for a rustic farmhouse theme. It is very traditional farmhouse, barn kind of style, maybe a little bit of a cabin Christmas type style. This style brings in lots of woodsy elements like evergreens, tree bark, different types of wood, woodland animals, berries, and pine cones, definitely things like that. And just like in the modern farmhouse style, you'll see lots of different signage with Christmas sayings on it, along with those antique items. You want to look for well-loved, well-used items that just have that little bit of character in that antique look. Next up, I want to do a rustic woodland take on a Christmas wreath. I'm starting with a Dollar Tree grapevine wreath form, and then I gathered up a whole bunch of different supplies that I thought would maybe look nice with this theme. And I started by taking apart a few of the evergreen picks that I picked up from Joann's and Dollar Tree. I just glued down all of the pine evergreen pieces along the side of the wreath. I also used bits of garland ties to add some extra pine texture. Now once I got the pine bits on, I decided to add a few of these Dollar Tree faux moss stones. I just thought they would add a little bit more of that outdoorsy rustic look. I put a few at the bottom of the wreath and then a couple throughout the rest of the greenery. For the finishing details, I added some berries and pine cones. And then Dollar Tree sells these decorative vase filler balls that I thought were perfect for this theme. So I glued a couple of those in different sizes and colors to the wreath, and I really love the look that these give, along with the other different elements that I added. I think it just turned out absolutely fantastic. The color palette for this rustic Christmas style would definitely be red, black, green, and brown, and also some creams or natural colors. This is the style where you'll find lots of buffalo check, and I absolutely love it, clearly. And along with the buffalo check, you'll see lots of natural fibers like canvas, jute, and burlap. The textures that you want to bring in with this style decor include rusty or galvanized type metal, mercury glass is a good one, weathered and worn looking wood, along with some cozy different elements like knits and flannels, and of course lots of warm lighting from either a fireside, candles, or lanterns, or just Christmas lights. For this next project, I'll be making a garland starting with cinnamon and applesauce. I got both of these at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be first making some classic cinnamon applesauce ornaments. Now, I originally did try measuring all of the ingredients to this. I will link the recipe I followed below, but I found it was just way easier to kind of add the ingredients back and forth until I got the final consistency that looked and felt like a cookie dough would. So fun fact, I don't have a rolling pin, so I used a can of soup to help me roll out the dough until it was a 1/4 inch thick. Then I just used some various Christmas cookie cutters to cut out the dough, and I was able to get a total of 6 ornaments out of this small batch of dough. I placed all of the ornaments on a parchment paper lined baking sheet and then used a straw to punch out a hole at the top of each ornament. I baked the ornaments in an oven preheated to 200 degrees for about 2.5 to 3 hours, and then I let them cool and sit overnight. Now, while those were baking, I also prepped the wood beads. I'm using 1.5 packs of the Dollar Tree colorful wood beads, and I poured them into a plastic baggie. I then put just a few drops of red acrylic paint into the bag, closed it up, and tossed the beads around and shook the bag and rubbed it around until they were all coated. Now, I actually learned this hack from a Dollar Tree Facebook group, so it's not my idea, but it worked great. I poured the beads onto a piece of wax paper, and then I just set them aside to dry for a couple of hours. When they were dry, they looked like this, and I actually wish I would have done 2 coats of the paint using that method. Now, to assemble this garland, I first cut a long piece of jute twine and tied a knot on one end, and then wrapped some tape around the other end. I first strung on 7 beads, and I varied the color between the darker and the lighter red beads just to add some variety. And after the beads, I took another piece of twine, made a lark's head knot at the top of the ornaments, and then tied it onto the garland with a bow. I then strung on 7 more beads, and after that, I took the buffalo check fabric you saw earlier, made a small snip, and then tore the fabric into a couple of strips. I then took a combination of these Hobby Lobby and Dollar Tree garland ties to make them into a bunch of little bunches of kind of the pine, but you can use whatever kind of greenery you might have. I then tied a bit of buffalo check fabric around the garland twine, glued the pine bunches onto the back, and then finished it off with a pine cone. I then repeated the pattern of 7 beads, cinnamon ornament, 7 beads, buffalo check fabric, until all of the cinnamon ornaments were attached. I wanted to make a really pretty rustic farmhouse centerpiece, so I'm starting with this wood crate that I thrifted from Goodwill, and it was actually only $1 because it was half off Yellow Day, which was great. I then took these mini trees and gave them a light dusting of Dollar Tree snow spray. I then arranged the mini trees and these battery-operated candles that I have just had for quite some time now, and it took a little bit of finessing, but I was able to fit all 3 candles and the 3 trees to make this cute little display. I also placed in some of these red berry stems just to add a pop of color. And just to fill in some of the empty gaps, I added a couple small pine cones. And I think my favorite part of this entire thing is that these candles can be turned on and off with a remote. Finally, on to Christmas trees and Christmas ornaments. For the trees, I think they'd be very similar to what you would see for a modern farmhouse theme, just big, beautiful Christmas trees with that traditional kind of shape. And these trees either can be just a dark evergreen color or go for something that is flocked to bring that woodsy feeling indoors. Ornaments should incorporate all of the things that I have already mentioned, like those natural elements. You want to tie some of those in with some woods, some jute, burlap, things like that. Then also some galvanized or rusty looking metals or antique looking style ornaments. And you could pop in a couple woodland creatures type ornaments just to make it look really cute. And of course, finally, for my rustic farmhouse ornaments, I'm using these little patterns that I made, and I will make them available as a free download, and 3 types of plaid material I had in my fabric stash. I traced the patterns onto 2 layers of the plaid material and then cut them all out. I then got out my trusty sewing machine and sewed along the little edges of the trees. And I also used white thread and a longer stitch length to really give these a homemade look. Of course, you can hand sew all of these. I just absolutely hate hand sewing. I also made sure to leave a small opening in the center bottom of each of the trees. Next, I stuffed each tree with a tiny bit of polyfill. It was a little bit tricky to get this in the tree at first, but once you get it, it's not too difficult. Now I'm going to use these Dollar Tree cinnamon sticks to create trunks for the trees. I cut the sticks in half, which was really easy to do with a pair of scissors just to make them a bit shorter, and then I just used hot glue to insert them to the bottom of the trees. To turn these into ornaments, I added a loop of jute twine to the top of each tree so they can hang, and then gave each tree a bow and a button. That wraps up my rustic farmhouse DIYs. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a like. And if you're here from the challenge playlist and you enjoyed my content here and want to see more of it, I would love it so much if you'd hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any time I post. And in the comments down below, I want to know, are you a red and black buffalo check person or a black and white buffalo check person? I personally like both, but I want to know, what do you think? And that's all I have for you in this video. Don't forget to check out the challenge playlist and Christina the DIY Mommy's channel. Those are linked in the description. And thanks so much for watching this video. I'll see you on my next one. Bye!